The next, there's going to be changes that allow people who are on supervision to have their supervision terminated early. So that's going to be something that's going to be helpful for people who are, fulfilled all their terms of ES and they're just like paying the money to the Department of Corrections and they're meeting with their PO, but really, they're sort of done being supervised for any, real reason, and so they can end it if they've served 2 years on ES and they've fulfilled the conditions of ES that the judge set, and the reductions is in the interest of justice. There's certain exclusions, obviously, so, and those are set out. There's, in the chart I referenced. The other thing that's going to happen is probation can end at 50%. Again, if there's no violations and if you're fulfilling the terms of your probation, there'll be rules promulgated by the DOC to establish criteria and guidelines for ending these things early. And a lot of these things, I think, when the legislature was debating these things and when the governor was contemplating signing them and things, they really referred to them as safety valve changes, and that's really what they are. It's for getting people off supervision that really don't need to be on it anymore, getting people out of prison that don't really necessarily need to be there anymore, and it's just adding some flexibility for DOC to reduce their caseload ultimately to the benefit of our clients, certainly. And again, that's why I refer to them as sort of cracks in the TIS foundation, because obviously the truth aspect of the sentence is going to be less true. Yeah. Another big change is going to be no more judges on reincarceration, and it's just fairly straightforward. It's a new change. It's going to be a huge difference in prison numbers, I think. And the way it's going to work is if there's a final revocation hearing, it's going to be like old law, right, or like new law. So the ALJ will determine how much time the person does if there's a final revocation hearing, or DOC will determine if there's a waiver of the final revocation hearing. And this is going to be, I think, one of the biggest things changing prison numbers for our clients who get revoked. And let's face it, they get revoked a lot, but they don't, they don't necessarily have to go back to prison for the maximum amount of ES, but that's what's happening. Or, I'll give you a month when you're done. There's changes to expunction, or if you like, expungement, for those people who have clients who get revocated as opposed to revoked. This applies. Expunction is now going to apply up to age 25, and there's going to be certain felonies that are going to be excluded, H&I felonies, except if you have a prior felony, and except if you have a previous violent felony. Other stuff in Act 28, OARs for the most part, well, not for the most part, a lot of OARs are still going to be criminal because they're based on an underlying OWI refusal, but if they're not, they're going to be non-criminal. There's some language and some statutes that have been created that are going to encourage or potentially get DOC a lot more active in community services to reduce recidivism. There's going to be a council on offender reentry. So, I think there's a paper commitment at least to helping people get back into the community successfully and reintegrate into the community. So that's the budget bill stuff. And there's some other minor things in the budget bill, but that's the main parts of it. There's other recent legislative changes that I think people kind of are pretty familiar with by now. Driver's license suspensions, right? They're permissive now in drug cases as of this spring. In juvenile cases, if you have a suppression hearing and then you enter an admission to the petition, you can still appeal, just like in criminal cases. And finally, there are some resources I want to just sort of put out there. There's the Legislative Fiscal Bureau memo I mentioned has, it's, a 20-page memo or something really detailing these changes. So it's really helpful. It's in the materials. It also includes the exceptions for the charts it's got these charts that basically set out all the felonies, and then it goes across and it sort of an X which ones they're eligible for. So if you look at it, you got a felony, you just look at what types of things of these new programs they're going to be eligible for. There's a couple of good memos on the DOC website, including frequently asked questions, which it's like about a 7-page memo, and it probably has the question about ES reincarceration inmates. And then there's also a 1-page sort of another chart type thing that might be helpful to give to clients to sort of show, a huge thing on this is obviously, some of this, risk reduction sentences, that's going to be upfront trial lawyers, right? I mean, people in court asking judges for risk reduction sentences. But positive adjustment time and a lot of these other things are really going to be after the fact things that clients are going to want to know about, and they're going to want to know, like, this is what I've heard, is that right? I mean, and I'm sure you get those questions now. I've heard that, the law is going to change and, everyone's going to get out of jail. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. So, that's the kind of stuff that people are tend to ask us, when they're looking at potentially doing a prison sentence, and they want to know the answer. So you want to be able to obviously fill them in and maybe give them a summary that they can look at. And so these are some resources to allow you to do that.